So the other day, one of my friends came up to me and asked me to create an extension for him. So he wanted basically a Chrome extensions to lock a specific conversation in ChatGPT. So initially, I was actually taken aback because I never really created an extension. So once I looked into it, it was quite easy, like the way to create an extension. So that's why I'm making this video, to just demonstrate to you how to create an extension. So this is what we'll be building today. So it's called something called task reminder. So here what we can do is you can just set a time and the name of the task. You can set the reminder, it should come up here, and we'll also learn how to inject this tasks to your browser. So when you hit show content, it comes up here. And we'll also learn another aspect to it, which is basically when this task, when this time is reached, we'll be getting a message from a file called background.js. We'll be going through how to do that as well. I think this was a quite a fun little project. If you are a bit weak in JavaScript, like vanilla JavaScript, which because I've been doing a lot of React lately, my vanilla JavaScript skills have become a bit more weaker, I would say. So this allowed me to polish those skills, and let me show you the extension which I created for him as well. So I've logged into ChatGPT right here. You can see there are a bunch of different conversations here. So if I go to one of those, and this is the extension which I created for him. So if I give it a password and lock it, I essentially hide this chat. So if you go to other chats, it comes up, but if you go to this chat, it disappears. So once if you click it again, and if I unlock it, you get to see the chat. So basically he wanted me to create this, and I was able to do it. So that's why, like, whatever I've learned through doing that is what I'll be going through today. So we'll be learning the core concepts of how to build such an extension. We will be going through what are the three main files which will be used in most extensions for us to create any extensions. So yeah, so hope you find value from this. Thanks for watching. Let's get started. So here I have an VS Code running, and I've got a images folder with 3 PNG files. So this is for our extensions icon, which will be displayed when we are using it. So you are supposed to have like 3 different sizes, which is 16, 48 and 128. Okay, so let's get started with the main file, which is called manifest.json. So this is kind of like the heart of our extension, where all the metadata, the permissions will be placed. So I'll just paste all the data which is required here. So we have the manifest version, so the version of this extension, which is 3, the name, the description. So probably the most important aspect of this file is the permissions, background content scripts. So basically permissions are the features which we'll be using from the Chrome. So Chrome has got a bunch of different permissions or features which we can use. So we'll be just using these 4, which is active tab, tabs, alarm, storage. There's something called geolocation as well. So if we go to Google Chrome extension geolocation permission, so yeah, so API references. So in here we'll find different extensions, the features which we can use. Let's go to stable APIs. So here we have action, alarms, audio, bookmarks. All these are different things which you can use for your Chrome extensions. So what we'll be using is just these 4. I'll be explaining what these are in detail shortly. Next is the background. So we'll have a file called background.js, and I'll explain what these files and demonstrate how these work shortly. Next is the content scripts, so let's have that as well, content.js, and we'll have a pop-up HTML, so this will be the HTML of our extension, and we'll have lastly a file called popup.js. Cool. So, and I think, yeah, so content scripts are basically the JavaScript that you'll be injecting to the web pages. So say you want to you're creating an extension for this Google page here, and you want to manipulate the DOM. So this content.js is what will be doing all the magic. And here matches is like which URLs should this content.js file run in. So in here I've just put all URLs, so it'll work in basically in all the URLs. So yeah, that's about it for the manifest.json file. Next, let's just create a popup.html. So because this is just plain HTML, I'll just paste out the HTML code here. So we have a div, we have two divs, we have inputs and buttons, and I'm also loading in the script tag for our popup.js, and we'll also have a styles file which I'll create now. Again, I'll just paste in all the stylings as well, because this is not an HTML CSS video, it'll just take too much time. I'll just be concentrating on these main files. So let's start up with the main one, which is popup.js. So in here, what popup.js is basically does is it kind of it's the JavaScript for your popup.html file. So all the UI related stuff will be put into this popup.js file. So to start off, let's wrap all our code in something called DOM content loaded. So this basically ensures that all our scripts are loaded before it actually gets executed. I'm not going to lie, since I've been doing a lot of JavaScript lately, I would say my vanilla JavaScript skills have gone a bit down. So this is a good project for us to get used to it again. So in here, let me just correct my bracket stuff. Yeah, so that basically should do it. So basically what we're doing right now is we are capturing all this input and button so that we can get the value of inputs and add event listeners to it. So in here, the first thing what I'll do is let's create a event listener for the button. So let's say reminder button dot add event listener. Let's give it click and a callback function. So inside the callback function, let's say reminder time. So this will basically get us the time or the dates which will be putting. So in here, let me just put value, and next up is the task. So task will basically be task input dot value. So both of these will basically get us these two values, the date time and the task name. So this is basically what it does. Let me just say task and reminder time, and let's load this up in our extension. So let's do that now. Let's go to Google, and to load extensions, where you have to go is you go to this 3 dots here and press extensions, manage extensions. As you can see, I've done this before, so it's already here, but let's unpack it. Let's go to our directory yt, and this is it. We load it. Okay, I think it is okay. Now I'm confused which one it is. I guess it's this one. So let me go to my extensions button here. I'll just do one thing. I'll just remove the older one because I'm getting confused. Okay, and task reminder. Okay, I think this is my old one. I'll remove this as well. Cool. Let me load that back again. Yeah, this is it. Cool. Now let me run this and see. Task reminder. And if you want to see the consoles of this, basically what you have to do is right click here, inspect, and now we can probably get the values. So if I do this and set reminder, I'm getting the task name and the date as well. So now we know that this thing here works. So next up, let's put some functionality, like we'll add some validation. So for validation, let me give an if condition saying if reminder time and reminder time and task is not empty, then what I'll do is I'll create an ID called task ID. So this will help us actually remove, we'll be able to remove individual tasks from a list or from an array of tasks. So for that I need an ID. So we'll have to create a function called UID, which is not there as of now. Then let's create a task object. So this will basically have task ID, we'll have time, which will be reminder time, and we'll also have the task. Cool. Now let's create this function called UID. So in order to generate our UID, let's create a function called UID, which basically takes the date and gets us some random number from it to generate a unique ID. So after that, what we'll do is we'll actually save this task object to something called chrome.storage.sync. So for that, let's actually create a function called save task, and this will take in the task object, and if the reminder time and task is empty, let's just give alert, please enter reminder time and task. All right, so that's the basis of our reminder button event listener. So next what we'll do is let us create the function for save task. So I'll call it function save task. This will take in a task object again, and inside there we'll be utilizing something called chrome.storage. Am I spelling it correctly? Yep. storage.sync.get tasks. So basically, when we're using chrome.storage, we have two things. One is local and the other one is sync. So if I go to their documentation here, let me go Chrome storage local. So in here, so I'll basically give you a gist of what's the difference between local and sync. So local basically stores all your data in your local machine, whereas sync syncs your data across all the browsers in which you're signed into. So if you would go to another PC and log in, what should ideally be happening is whatever you store in this sync should be available in your other PC as well. So that's why we are using sync instead of local. So let's call it something as tasks, and we'll give it a callback function. I don't know why I'm spelling it wrong. Okay, and in here let me create an object called tasks. This will basically come from data.task, and if it's empty, let's just give it an empty array, and let's say const new task. So this will be an array, obviously, so we'll spread the tasks and put in task object. Cool. So now what we can do is we've actually gotten whatever tasks which we have saved initially, and we've pushed our recently added task object. So next is to set it. So to set it, what we have to do is chrome.storage, in the same thing, .sync .set, and inside that we'll have to give it an object called tasks. So this is basically the object, and the new task, we assign it the new task, and then we can give again a callback function. So once this has finished executing, what should happen? So inside that we'll just clear the inputs. So time.value is empty string, and task input dot value is an empty string. Next, what we'll have to do is, which we have yet to do, is to render the tasks out. So whenever we add a new task, we want that to basically, so let me go back here and go here. So whenever we given the date and the task, it should pop up right here. So if this, once this is successful, I want to render the tasks. Next is, we'll have to, okay, I'll leave that for later. So let's set an alarm as well we'll do that later. So this is basically done, so we can test this out. Let me just say clg new task, and let me save this and see what happens now. So let's go here, I'll refresh this. Oh, not that, sorry. You'll have to refresh this button right here, and sometimes this doesn't work, so you just have to remove it and unpack it again. So let me go back here, inspect this. Okay, and let me just put in something here. So that's fine, and I'll just give ASDF set reminder. Okay, so this works. As you can see here, I'm console logging, so we are inside this function, and the new task is also being recorded. Yeah, but you cannot see anything here because we don't have the logic to actually display the tasks from our local Chrome storage to our UI. So in order to do that, we'll have to create a new function called render tasks. So in here, let me uncomment this out, and let us create the function for this. So let me create this on right on top here. So let's go function again. I'm sorry for the wrong spellings which I'm using. Render tasks. Okay, so this will be a function, and in here, first what we'll do is we'll again use chrome.storage.sync, and we'll get all the items, which is called tasks, and we'll give a callback function with the data, and inside the data, to get this tasks, we'll just say tasks is equal to data dot tasks, and if it's not there, we'll just initialize with an empty array. So now if tasks let's say dot length is greater than 0, we'll need to do something. So then let's create a task container dot style dot, okay, this is basically all plain vanilla JavaScript. Display is equal to block. So initially the task container, if I go here, is just empty. So we'll make it into a block, and task container dot inner HTML will be will initialize to empty. We'll clear all the previous tasks. Then what we can do is we can have a for loop, and inside that we'll have a task object of tasks. So since this is an array, now we have access to each one of those task object, and inside that, let me put something. Okay, cool. giving me some suggestions. Let's see what this is saying. Okay, we create an element called div, we put a class called task, inner HTML. We will have to change this, the inner HTML part. So for the inner HTML part, instead of task object dot time, let me just replace this with play with this. So we'll have a paragraph tag of task object dot name. Am I not having access to it? Yep, I do. Okay. Then we have task object dot time. So we display the name, the time, and we convert the time into a suitable format, and we'll have a button called remove button, which will basically capture the feature of removing individual tasks. So now let me just save this. Okay, it's already saved. Fine. Let me refresh this and see what I'm getting. Oops. Okay, I'm getting nothing as of now. Let me check what the problem is. There should be a task. Okay, let's try adding something. So let me go here, go here. Okay, so there's some issue. Array, I'm getting an array, fine. And okay, I'll debug this. So let's go back to the code here and let's see what we're doing wrong. So when we save the task, we don't have to console logged anymore. Okay, the color here is different, so probably this is an this should be like so, and I'm probably missing one of the brackets. Okay, I think I've fixed the bracket issues. So yeah, so now we're saving the task here. Cool. And let us just refresh this and let's see whether we're getting something. So here, let me set reminder. Okay, so we're getting the tasks here now. So one of the other problems, if I refresh here, go here, there's nothing being, like, even though there are two tasks in the array, there's nothing being rendered out here. So what we'll do is, initially, let us just call a function to render out all the tasks which are there. So now if I refresh this and press this, now I have the two tasks. So now let's add the functionality of actually removing one of the tasks. So in here, if you can see, we are creating a button here with an ID of remove button. So what we can do here is give it a function for removing the tasks. So let's call remove button. Inside that, let's task element dot query selector. So we'll select a remove button and let's give it a event listener of a click function. Cool. And inside here, what we'll say is we'll create another function called remove task of task object. So this object right here, and yeah, I think that's about it. Let's now create a function for remove task. So let's create it right down here. So in here, function, let's say remove task. Remove task, and let's give it an ID. Inside that, again, let's go to chrome.storage.sync.get. so we'll get all the tasks, task function data, and inside here, okay, that sounds good, const task data tasks, and we'll call this update tasks. So we'll basically filter it out with the ID is not equal to ID. That's fine. It's not equal to ID, and we set the tasks with update tasks, and we call the render tasks again. So in here, remove task. If I go here, I don't want the task object. I need the task object dot task ID, task ID, so that we have it here. I'll save it, and I can see I've made a mistake here. It should not be reminder button, there should be remove button. Yep. So I think with that we have the functionality of our remove task. Let me just console log out the updated task just to see whether we are getting out the right thing. Let me just resize this. Cool. And the errors, let me clear everything, refresh it, go back here, task reminder, inspect, and if I remove this now, this goes away, and I can, why can't I remove that as well? Okay, cool. So now if I refresh this, okay, so if I can add and I can remove as well, but the remove button is not working. Let's see what that is. Errors, set alarm, task object. Okay, set alarm is not defined. Cool. Okay, so this is not there. Let me refresh this, and let's try it again. Remove. Okay, so the remove is not working. Let's go back to the code, and inside our logic of render tasks here, okay, this should probably be style. So style display block, and only if the task is greater than 0 we'll be rendering this out. Okay, saw what the mistake is. Else what we'll do is we won't display anything here, so let's just keep it as none. I think this should solve it. And now if I refresh this, go back here, task reminder, and go here, it comes up here, and if I remove, it goes away. So yeah, so that's basically our popup.js. So as you can see here, popup.js allows us to manipulate the UI for our extension itself. Now let me demonstrate to you what background.js is. So let's go to background.js and give it some code right here. So in here we'll be using something called alarms from if I go to chrome.alarms .on alarm add listener. So this allows us to create alarms basically, which triggers when a specific time is reached. So you can execute a code block based on the time which you have given to the alarms. So basically what background.js does is it listens to this file is generally used when we want a code block to listen to something. So one of the other use case would be with something called tabs. So if this is one of the very popular use cases. So tabs basically sees which tabs you are in. You can get the URL. There's another thing called active tabs. So basically any code block that you don't want in your popup.js and you want it to run in the background listening to something, that's where background.js comes into play. And you have to, if you go to manifest.json file, you also have to mention it right here, the service worker as background.js. Background GROUND. Okay, fine. I thought I misspelled that. So let's use Chrome dot alarms. Again, this is all from the documentation alarm chrome.alarms.on alarm add listener. I think I'm why is ADDLISTENER. Okay, that's cool. Function, and we'll give a callback function which takes in an alarm, and inside that, if alarm dot name, we haven't set this alarm yet, but what we are doing now is we are basically listening to any alarms which will be coming to background.js from popup.js. Will have to configure the popup.js after this. So let's take in task ID from the alarm.name. So after that, what we can do is we can again access our chrome.storage. This might not register to you right now, but as soon as we do the code block of sending the alarm from the popup.js to our background, you'll get what I'm trying to do here. So once we have we'll be getting the task ID from the popup.js. We'll again use sync.get. We'll get all the tasks. So once we have all the tasks, with that we can get the specific task by using, let me get all the tasks from data.tasks, and if it's not there, we'll just give an empty array. Now let's get the specific task. So pending task is equal to tasks dot find. So this will give us a specific task based on the ID. So task dot task ID. No, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm basically using an extension called Codium. That's why it's suggesting this. It's not GitHub Copilot. So yeah. So what we are doing right now is we are getting an array of tasks. We are using the find function for the tasks, and when the tasks.task ID matches the task ID which we are getting from popup.js, we'll have that specific task. So then what we can do is just console log out the pending task. Again, this is just for me to show to you how the background.js works. So let me save this. So now that we have added a listener for the alarm, let us actually given the function for creating the alarm. So now if I go back to my save task here, you can see that we have commented out the set alarm. So next what we'll do is we'll create the function for setting the alarm. So let me uncomment this out and create a new function called function.set alarm, and this will take in a task object, and in here let me say const alarm name will be task object dot id, or rather task id, and then we'll say reminder time will be new date. This is task object dot time dot get time. So now we can set the alarm. So to set the alarm, in Chrome, use chrome dot alarms dot create, and this takes in an alarm name. So alarm name is the task ID. So this task ID, this listener will listen to the alarms and it will get the ID alarm.name, which we are mentioning right here, alarm name, which is the ID. And then inside that we'll say when we want this alarm to execute. This will be the reminder time. So now we've set the alarm. So let me go back to our Chrome and let me refresh this. Okay, so I'm already console logging it out here. So let's try this out. So let me refresh this, go to my extensions right here, inspect this. Okay, now let me give in the current date, and I'll say the time to be 44. Right now it's 2:43, and I'll give a name for it, set reminder. Cool. Now let's wait for a minute and see whether that code executes or not. So we've got undefined here, which means that we've done something wrong, or rather I've done something wrong. So let me just check here. It's probably in the background.js because the error came after a minute. So this is running. So let me say that, let me just console log background ran, and let me say if alarm.name is task id alarm.name, we sync, we get the tasks, we put it into an object called task, pending task, then we find that using task.tasks id. Okay, I got the mistake. I think this should be singular, not plural. So, and this also I've messed up here. Man, I make a lot of mistakes. It's kind of difficult to code, talk, and think at the same time. I'm still getting used to it. Okay, so I think now this should work. Let me refresh that. Let me refresh this. Let's go back here and remove this, inspect, and 46. And I'll set the reminder. Now let's see in a minute whether this executes or not. All right, so it's been a minute now, and you can see that now I'm getting the task. After a minute has passed, I'm getting this object of a single task. So this is how basically background.js works. It works in the background, listening to stuff. You could probably again send this pending tasks to the popup.js to do something. So that's basically the gist of background.js. Whenever you need something to run in the background, you put that code block in this file right here, and it should execute. So in one of my in the project which I've built, which I'll be showing shortly, I've utilized the background.js just to keep track of the IDs of a given conversation. So that's how I've used background.js. So it again depends on your use case, how you want to use background.js. Okay, so now let's move on to content.js. I think this is one of the more important ones. So content.js is generally used to inject or manipulate the DOM of the web page of given web page. So for our example, we'll be using GitHub, and we'll be trying to inject some of our tasks right here. So in order to do that, let us start coding in our content.js file. So in here, let's say Chrome. Okay, so before this, let's move on to our popup.js, and let's use, if I go to my extensions button here, let's put the functionality for show content. So whenever we click this, the tasks should appear right here. So let's do that. So I've already got that. I've already tracked that button using the query selector content button. So in here, let me just copy this so that I don't misspell, which I'm widely known for misspelling. Let's put it right down, reminder.button. So in here, let me paste chrome.button.add event listener, and it'll be a click event listener. So again, what we'll do is chrome.storage, you know the drill, chrome.storage.sync.get will get all the tasks, and once we have all the tasks, we'll have a callback function for data, and I've misspelled function. Okay, cool. So I've got the function, and inside here what I'll put all the tasks in this object. So data dot tasks, and if it's empty, we'll have an array. So once we have an array, we'll use chrome dot tabs dot query. So this API allows us to get the current tab or the URL. So this takes in a couple of parameters. So active, which is true, and the current window, which, okay, I'm not getting a suggestion, so I'll have to type it all by myself. Current window true, and we'll have access to tabs, and it'll be a callback function. And in here, let's have current. So tab will have all the information of this URL. So current tab, this will be an array. So tab, let me just say 0. Okay, it should be tabs 0. And just to show you all what this thing has, let me console log out the tabs, and you can have a better understanding on what this thing contains. So if I refresh, go back here and inspect this, if I click show content, you can see I got an array of all those. I have the current URL, the title, extension, we have the ID of the window, width, all of these properties. So I would say the main one is the URL, which we'll be playing around with. So yeah, so basically that's what we are doing. So in here, from this tabs array, we are getting the first object, and then we will get the URL. So const, I believe it was current URL, and this will come from current tab dot URL. So now if this matches, if the current URL dot we'll use the includes function. So if it includes github.com, because as will be, if I go to GitHub, only when the URL has this string github.com will this will be sending something to our content.js to inject some code here. So yeah, so that's what this is for. If current URL includes github.com, so then what we can do is we can use chrome dot tabs dot send message. Send message, we'll have to give it an ID of the current tab dot ID, and inside that we'll mention action and say content to inject, and let's just say text to inject will be the tasks. So all the what we are doing here is we're sending a message to content.js, and we give it two properties, which is the action and text to inject. So this is how we communicate between popup.js to content.js to background.js. The same thing would be done if you wanted to give this code to background.js. All you had to do is you have to listen to this. So that's what we'll be doing now. So let's go to content.js, and here we'll have to listen to that message. So for that, use chrome.runtime.onMessage.add listener, and we give it a function. It has 3 parameters, which is message, sender, and send response. So inside here we say if message dot action is equal to this, if if this action is equal to content to inject, only then we will run a specific code. So then what we can say is the task is message dot task. So you can see here these two properties are inside the message object here, right here. So message dot action will give us this current to inject, and message dot text to inject will give us the tasks. So that's what we are basically doing here. So message dot task to inject. Now if I console log out the task, I think you'll be able to see what we are doing right here. So if I refresh this, go to github.com, open the DevTools of GitHub console, go to extensions, and let me just hit show content, and I'm not getting anything. Say manage extensions, errors. I have an error. Establishing. Okay, fine. Let me just refresh it just in case. Sometimes the refreshing does the trick. If I hit okay, now it's working. Cool. As you can see, we're getting undefined. So probably we are sending something wrong. So let's check that. So in here we have two properties: action, content to inject, and text to inject. Now content, we have content in task to inject. Okay, fine. So I've misspelled it again, which is nothing new. Yep. Now let's save this, go back here, clear all the errors, refresh it, go to github.com. I'll refresh this, and now if I go to my extensions, task to reminder, show content, and yep, now I'm getting an array of my tasks. This is basically coming from content.js. So one of the things which you have to remember is, like, when you inspect this element, all the code in your content.js comes up in the DevTools for GitHub, and not your the dev tools for your this popup. Basically, while I was initially getting started with creating this extension, I was constantly looking at this DevTools of my extension to see the code of for content.js, and later on I realized, after wasting like 3-4 hours, I realized that okay, all the code which is like of content.js comes in the DevTools for GitHub, which makes sense. But as I was just getting started, I was just making that stupid error. So next up is we'll have to insert this task to like right here. So in order to do that, let's create another function called insert task content, and we'll give it the task. It should be plural, but anyways, no props. We'll just go with that function, and again insert task content, give it the task parameter, and here we can start injecting our code. So to do that, what you can do is go to your DevTools and go and just select this part right here, and here if you go down and like check the class name, you can see that for this div right here, the class name is dashboard sidebar. So then what you can do is you can use a console. I think you can access the console here. Can't. Yeah, right here. So what I can do is I can say const sidebar. I'll say document dot query selector, and I can just give that class name here and check whether I get that div or not. So if I hit enter, it's undefined, but now if I hit sidebar and hit enter, I get that div right here. So now that we have that div in this sidebar, we can manipulate this to inject our own code into it. So let's do that in our file right here. So in here, what I can do is again do the same thing, const let's say dash dashboard sidebar, sidebar again, document dot query selector dashboard sidebar. Good job, podium. And if and only if this, okay, now it's now it's playing with me. Okay, if dashboard sidebar is true, only then we will manipulate it. So only if it's there, we'll manipulate it. Task container, let's create a div. So create element div. And doing actually this project, I think improved my Java, like vanilla JavaScript, a little better, because for the longest time I've been, oops, what's wrong with this now? Task dot, okay, now cool. So yeah, as I was saying, after doing this project, I think my vanilla JavaScript has gotten a bit better, because for the longest time I've been just doing React, that I've forgotten how to manipulate the actual DOM, because all this time I've been manipulating the virtual DOM. So yeah, this was a pretty cool project for me to do, to again just brush up my vanilla JavaScript skills. So anyway, so what we are doing right now is we are taking the task array, and we will be looping over each of those objects. So once we have looped over those objects, we can say document dot create element will create a div, and inside that div, what we can do is we can put in something. So text content, we'll put a template literal and say task, let's give an index. So index plus 1, because it will start from 0, and let's give it the task item. Okay, we are giving the task item, so this won't be task item dot, okay, so the name of the task is task. I should have probably named it name, whatever. So once that's done, let's also get the time as well. So the time will be, again, I think we can go to popup.js and just copy the time from there. I don't want to type all this again. Yeah, this is it. We just copy out, I think this is still where, I think still here. Okay, we copy that here. I should have probably put this in a function. Okay, cool. So I got the time as well. So once we have created the div with the task, the number, name, and the time, task, okay, again, this is item. Okay, cool. Task item, and then we'll just append this to our task element. And once all of this is done, we'll append the entire div to task. We'll append this entire container to the dashboard sidebar. Okay, so if this exists, then that should happen. Else, let's just console log out saying that target div not found, make sure the page structure is as expected. I think that's a good error message. Okay, so I think with that we've done. So now let's just go back to our extensions, refresh this, go right here, refresh this as well. Sometimes it doesn't work. Okay, now let me just go here, remove all the tasks, say tomorrow create a project on Chrome extension. I'll set the reminder and say I want to inject this code right here. I just type it, like click show content, and you can see we have the tasks injected to our sidebar. So this is what content.js does. Whenever you want to manipulate the DOM of the web page, you use content.js. And yeah, so that's basically it. So let me one last try. Let me go back here, remove everything, refresh it. Again I'll say third, create Chrome ext on GitHub. I set the reminder, I put again third, make a YT video on it, set the reminder, and now show content, and comes up here. Cool. So yeah, so that's basically it. It's a very simple application, but it, needless to say, it demonstrates all the core concepts of how you create a Chrome extension. And just to go over everything what we've done, so basically we have the main file here called manifest.json file. It contains all the metadata and the permissions which your extensions has. So we have active tab, tabs, alarm, storage. There are a bunch of others. One which sounded interesting was geolocations, which actually track your current locations. Then we have notifications and so on. So those are all the permissions you have to, like, if you want to use a given feature of Chrome, you'll have to mention it here. Then there's the background, where you specify which JS file is it that you want to run in the background. So the things which you want to listen to, you want to send messages from background to content or pop-up, all that jazz goes in the background.js. Then content script is when you want to manipulate the DOM of the browser. So we use the content.js file, and if you want the content.js file to run on a specific URL, you just mention it here. And yeah, these are all the other metadatas for the images for your extensions and so on. And popup.html, which is the UI. And finally the popup.js, which contains all the logic for you to manipulate your extension, how it looks, which we did right here. So whenever you want to add a task or remove a task, how it should look in the UI, that's what goes in popup.js. So yeah, so this is basically it for how to create the Chrome extensions. If you've understood so far, and if you've stuck around till the end, thank you so much.